The auditorium at Palo Alto High School smelled of polished wood and nervous anticipation, the kind of scent that clung to your clothes and lingered in your memory. The stage lights buzzed faintly, casting a golden glow over the scuffed floorboards where Stella Musk stood backstage, her heart hammering like a piston in one of her father's Tesla engines. At 17, she was used to eyes on her. Being Elon Musk's daughter meant constant scrutiny, like living under a microscope. But tonight, March 15, 2025, was different. Tonight, she'd done the unthinkable, signed up for the school talent show, her first attempt to share the voice she'd kept locked away in her bedroom for years. Her fingers twisted the hem of her navy sweater, the soft fabric grounding her as her dark hair fell over her face, a flimsy shield against the world. She wasn't supposed to be here, not really. Singing was her secret, her sanctuary, a connection to her late mother, Sarah, who'd filled their old house with melodies before cancer stole her away when Stella was 9. But something had stirred in Stella last week, a reckless spark of courage, or maybe desperation, when she'd scribbled her name on the talent show sign-up sheet. Now, standing behind the heavy velvet curtain, she regretted it. Her glasses slipped down her nose, and she pushed them up, her hands trembling. The chatter of her classmates echoed through the auditorium, a mix of laughter and whispers that felt like a brewing storm. Stella Musk? Singing. The voice sliced through the noise, sharp and venomous. Madison Hayes, the queen bee of Palo Alto High's senior class, stood across the backstage area, her blonde ponytail swinging as she tossed her head back in mock disbelief. Her clique, Chloe, Emma, and a rotating cast of followers, giggled like hyenas circling prey. Madison's blue eyes glinted with malice as she leaned against a prop table, her perfectly manicured nails tapping out a rhythm of disdain. What's next, Elon building a rocket to carry her off-key notes to Mars? The laughter that followed was a punch to Stella's chest. Each snicker felt like a splinter embedding deeper into her confidence. She'd only come to this rehearsal to test the waters, to see if she could stand on that stage without crumbling. She hadn't even planned to sing tonight, just to watch, to prepare. But Madison's words made her feel like she was already failing, her dreams exposed and ridiculed before they'd even taken shape. Stella's cheeks burned as she ducked behind the curtain, her sneakers silent on the wooden floor. She pressed her back against the cool wall, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Why did I think I could do this? She thought, her eyes stinging with unshed tears. She'd grown up in the shadow of her father's fame, a world of SpaceX launches and Neuralink breakthroughs, where every move was dissected on platforms like X. Being Elon Musk's daughter meant expectations, genius, innovation, boldness. But Stella wasn't bold. She was the quiet girl who hid behind her glasses, who preferred her mother's old vinyl records to the spotlight. Singing was her escape, not a performance for others to judge. She peeked out from behind the curtain, her heart sinking as she saw Madison mimic her earlier moment of clumsiness, when she tripped over a stage cable during a soundcheck, her glasses slipping as she flailed to catch herself. Madison exaggerated the stumble, clutching her chest dramatically as her friends howled. "Oh, look, it's the Musk prodigy." Madison crowed, her voice carrying to the front rows where a few other students snickered. "Maybe she'll sing us a song about crashing Teslas." Stella's throat tightened, her vision blurring. She wanted to disappear, to melt into the shadows and never face that stage again. Her fingers brushed the locket around her neck, a silver oval engraved with a tiny star, her mother's, a gift from happier days. She could almost hear Sarah's voice, soft and warm, "Sing from your heart, Stella. That's where your strength is." But her mother wasn't here, and the auditorium felt like a lion's den. "Stella, you're up next," a gentle voice broke through her spiral. Ms. Elena Rivera, the music teacher, appeared at her side, her brown eyes warm behind wire-rimmed glasses. Her dark hair was pulled into a messy bun, and her cardigan smelled faintly of lavender, a comforting contrast to the chaos around them. "You've got something special," Ms. Rivera said, her voice low but firm. "I heard you humming in the music room last week. Don't let them steal that from you." Stella shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "They're right, Ms. Rivera. I don't belong here." Her voice cracked, barely above a whisper. I'm not like my dad. I'm not fearless." Ms. Rivera's hand rested lightly on Stella's shoulder. "Fear doesn't mean you're weak, Stella. It means you're human. And humans with something to say. They're the ones who change the world." She gestured toward the stage, where the next act, a freshman juggling glow sticks, was warming up. "You don't have to sing tonight. But don't let their words decide your future." Stella wanted to believe her, but Madison's laughter still echoed in her ears, a cruel soundtrack to her doubts. She glanced at the exit door, its red glow tempting her to run. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, and she pulled it out, dreading what she'd find. A notification from X popped up, a post from Madison, already gaining traction. "Stella Musk thinks she's a singer? Wait till you see this flop." Hashtag Palo Alto High. Attached was a blurry photo of Stella tripping, her face frozen in embarrassment. The air felt too thick to breathe. Stella shoved her phone back in her pocket, her decision made. She bolted for the exit, pushing through the heavy door into the cool California night. The stars above Silicon Valley twinkled indifferently, and the distant hum of traffic on El Camino Real was the only sound. She wrapped her arms around herself, the locket pressing against her chest. What if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? The question hung in the air, as real as the tears on her face. For Stella, it felt like she'd already lost the one thing she'd dared to hope for, a chance to be seen for who she was, not who her father was. She walked home through the quiet streets, past sleek tech offices and palm-lined sidewalks, her sneakers scuffing the pavement. The Musk family mansion loomed ahead, all glass and sharp angles, a monument to her father's ambition. Inside, Elon was probably buried in emails or X posts, unaware of her humiliation. Stella's room was her refuge, a cluttered haven of books, records, and fairy lights. She collapsed onto her bed, pulling her knees to her chest. The locket glinted in the lamplight, and she opened it, revealing a tiny photo of her and her mom, smiling under a summer sky. "I'm sorry, Mom," she whispered. "I tried." But the memory of Madison's mockery drowned out her mother's voice. Stella closed her eyes, letting the tears fall, wondering if she'd ever find the courage to step into the light. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Stella Musk sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, the faint glow of a Tesla-branded lamp casting soft shadows across the chaos of her sanctuary. Vinyl records lay scattered like fallen leaves, Fleetwood Mac, Aretha Franklin, Joni Mitchell, each sleeve worn from years of her touch. The clock on her nightstand read 10:47 p.m., March 16, 2025, the night after her humiliating escape from the talent show rehearsal. Her dark hair spilled over her shoulders, still damp from a shower she'd hoped would wash away the sting of Madison Hayes' mockery. It hadn't. Her glasses rested on her nose, slightly crooked, and her fingers traced the edge of a Joni Mitchell record, Blue, its cover faded but cherished. This was her mother's collection, a tether to a time when life felt simpler, when Stella wasn't just Elon Musk's daughter. Growing up in Silicon Valley, Stella had never been just a kid. She was a Musk, a name that carried weight like a rocket ready to launch. At 5, she'd sat in the back of SpaceX meetings, doodling stars on graph paper while her father sketched Mars colonies on a whiteboard. By 9, she'd learned to dodge paparazzi outside their Palo Alto mansion, their cameras flashing like vultures circling. Her mother, Sarah, had been her shield, a soft-spoken artist who painted galaxies and sang lullabies to drown out the world's noise. Sarah's voice was Stella's first love, warm, soulful, wrapping her in safety. "You've got music in your bones, Stell," her mom would say, strumming a guitar in their sunlit living room. Those moments were Stella's haven, a place where she wasn't judged for her last name. But when Stella was 9, cancer stole Sarah away, swift and merciless. The loss carved a hollow in Stella's chest that never quite filled. She remembered the hospital room, the beep of machines, her mother's frail hand squeezing hers. "Sing for me, always," Sarah had whispered, her final words etched into Stella's heart. After the funeral, Elon threw himself into work, SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, leaving Stella with nannies and a house that felt too big. She'd wander the halls, clutching her mother's locket, singing softly to keep the grief at bay. Music became her secret language, a way to talk to Sarah when no one else was listening. School didn't help. Palo Alto High was a microcosm of Silicon Valley's elite, kids of tech moguls, startup heirs, and overachievers who eyed Stella with a mix of envy and disdain. By middle school, she'd overheard the whispers, "Her dad's a genius, so why's she so normal," or, "Bet she's only here because of Elon's money." The words planted seeds of doubt that grew into a forest of insecurity. Stella learned to shrink, to blend into the background with her oversized sweaters and quiet demeanor. Her glasses, a necessity since she was 12, became another layer of armor, hiding the eyes that betrayed her fears. Her relationship with Elon was a tightrope. He was a whirlwind of ideas, his mind always orbiting some new frontier. Stella adored him, but she craved the dad who'd once built model rockets with her in the backyard, laughing when they fizzled instead of flew. Now, at 17, their conversations were brief, often interrupted by his phone buzzing with X notifications or urgent emails. "You're destined for greatness, kiddo," he'd say, his blue eyes distant, already half lost in a Neuralink schematic. Stella wondered if he even knew who she was beyond his name. Last month, she'd tried to tell him about her love for singing, but he'd been distracted, muttering about a Starship launch. "That's great, Stell. You'll do big things," he'd said, not looking up. She hadn't tried again. Her best friend, Lila Carter, was her lifeline. Lila, with her wild chestnut curls and fearless attitude, had crashed into Stella's life in 7th grade, when they'd been paired for a science project. Stella was the new kid, awkward and guarded, but Lila's relentless chatter, about comic books, In-N-Out milkshakes, and her dream of becoming a journalist, broke through her walls. They'd bonded over late-night drives, Lila coaxing Stella to sing along to the car radio. "You've got a voice like a sunrise," Lila would say, her hazel eyes sparkling. "You're hiding a freaking supernova, Musk." Stella always brushed it off, her cheeks flushing. Singing was private, a piece of her mom she wasn't ready to share with the world. But Lila saw her. When Stella's classmates mocked her for her quietness or her dad's eccentric ex-posts, Lila was there, firing back with witty comebacks or dragging Stella to their favorite diner to escape. Lila's family was the opposite of Stella's. Loud, chaotic, with 3 siblings and parents who argued over pizza toppings. Stella envied their normalcy, the way Lila's mom hugged her without checking a calendar first. Lila was the one who'd pushed Stella to sign up for the talent show, slipping the form onto her desk with a grin. "You're not just Elon's daughter, Stell. You're you." Show M. Now, sitting among her mother's records, Stella regretted listening. The talent show was supposed to be her chance to honor Sarah, to step out of her father's shadow and into her own light. But Madison's cruel laughter had shattered that dream, leaving Stella feeling like a fraud. She picked up the blue record, its cover art a swirl of cerulean that reminded her of her mom's paintings. She slid it onto her vintage turntable, the needle crackling as Joni's voice filled the room. "Oh, I am a lonely painter, I live in a box of paints." Stella's lips moved silently, her voice too raw to join in. She closed her eyes, picturing her mom's smile, the way her fingers danced over guitar strings. A memory surfaced, sharp and vivid. She was 8, curled up on the living room couch, her mom teaching her to sing, "A Case of You." Sarah's voice was weak from chemo, but her eyes sparkled as she guided Stella's shaky notes. "You're my little star," she'd said, tucking a strand of Stella's hair behind her ear. One day, you'll shine so bright the world won't know what hit em. Stella had believed her then, but now? Now she felt like a flickering bulb, ready to burn out. Her phone buzzed, pulling her back to the present. A text from Lila, "You okay?" "Screw Madison. You're a badass, and you know it." Stella managed a small smile, but it faded as she scrolled X, unable to resist. Madison's post from the rehearsal had exploded, 2,000 likes, 500 retweets, and a flood of comments. "Elon's kid can't even walk straight, let alone sing." But buried among the cruelty were kinder voices, "Leave her alone. She's just a kid. Bet she's got more talent than all of you haters." The mix of hate and support made her head spin, like she was caught in a tug-of-war she hadn't signed up for. Stella set her phone down, her gaze drifting to the locket around her neck. She opened it, revealing a tiny photo of her and Sarah, smiling under a summer sky. Her mom's dark hair framed her face, so like Stella's own, and her eyes held a quiet strength Stella wished she could borrow. "I want to make you proud," she whispered, her voice breaking. "But I don't know how." She stood, pacing her room, the fairy lights casting a warm glow over her bookshelves, sci-fi novels, music theory texts, a worn copy of The Little Prince her mom had read to her. The weight of her last name pressed down, a reminder of the world's expectations. Elon Musk's daughter wasn't supposed to be ordinary, but Stella felt like she was drowning in ordinary, her dreams too fragile for the spotlight. She stopped at her window, staring out at the Silicon Valley skyline, all sleek glass and neon. Somewhere out there, her dad was probably awake, tweeting about colonizing Mars or sparring with critics on X. Did he ever feel this small? The record spun to its end, the needle clicking softly. Stella took a deep breath, her fingers brushing the locket. Maybe Lila was right. Maybe she wasn't just Elon's daughter. But the thought of stepping back onto that stage, of facing Madison's sneer and the world's judgment, made her stomach churn. She sank onto her bed, pulling her knees to her chest. The memory of her mom's voice lingered, a faint melody in the silence, "Sing for me, always." But could she? Could she sing for herself? The cafeteria at Palo Alto High School buzzed with the usual Monday chaos, trays clattering, sneakers squeaking on linoleum, the air thick with the scent of pizza and teenage bravado. Stella Musk sat at her usual corner table, her tray of fries untouched, her dark hair falling like a curtain over her face. It was March 17, 2025, 2 days after her humiliating exit from the talent show rehearsal, and the weight of Madison Hayes' mockery still pressed against her chest. Her glasses fogged slightly from the steam of her soda, and she adjusted them, trying to shrink into her oversized sweater. The world felt too loud, too sharp, like every laugh in the room was aimed at her. Lila Carter slid into the seat across from her, her chestnut curls bouncing as she dropped her backpack with a thud. Her hazel eyes were narrowed, her phone already in hand, a storm brewing on her face. "Stella, you need to see this," she said, her voice low but urgent. She pushed her phone across the table, the screen glowing with an X post that made Stella's stomach lurch. The video loaded slowly, each frame a fresh wound. It was from Friday's rehearsal, capturing the exact moment Stella tripped over a stage cable, her glasses slipping as she flailed to catch herself. Her face, frozen in mid-panic, was almost unrecognizable, vulnerable, exposed. Madison's voice narrated over the clip, dripping with venom. "Elon's daughter thinks she's a star. Watch this epic fail. #MuskFlop." The post had exploded overnight, 5,000 likes, 1,200 retweets, and a flood of comments that ranged from snarky to outright cruel. "Stick to daddy's money, Stella. Is this what Tesla stock pays for? Bet she sings as bad as she walks." Stella's cheeks burned, her fries turning cold as her appetite vanished. "I'm such an idiot," she whispered, pushing the tray away. Her hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the table, the cafeteria's fluorescent lights buzzing like a swarm of bees in her head. Lila grabbed her hand, her grip fierce. No, they're idiots, she said, her voice sharp enough to cut through the noise. This is just mean girl nonsense, Stell. Madison's jealous because you've got something real. But the words didn't suit the sting. By third period, the whispers followed Stella down the halls, sly glances, muffled giggles, phones angled to snap her picture. She kept her head down, her sneakers scuffing the polished floor, but the weight of eyes on her was suffocating. In English class, she caught Chloe, one of Madison's minions, smirking at her phone, no doubt scrolling through the X comments. Stella sank lower in her seat, her notebook doodled with stars and half-finished lyrics, a futile attempt to escape. The climax of her humiliation came at lunch's end, when Madison herself sauntered by, her blonde ponytail swinging like a pendulum. "Hey, Stella," she called, loud enough for the surrounding tables to hear. "Practicing for your next viral flop?" Her clique erupted in laughter, and a few nearby students joined in, their eyes darting to Stella for a reaction. She froze, her throat tight, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. Climax, the moment felt like a spotlight burning through her, exposing every insecurity she'd ever buried. She bolted from the cafeteria, ignoring Lila's call to wait, and found refuge in the music room, a quiet haven of pianos and faded posters. She curled up on a stool by the upright piano, her knees pulled to her chest, her locket pressed against her skin. The room smelled of old sheet music and wood polish, a faint comfort. Ms. Elena Rivera found her there, her cardigan slightly askew, her brown eyes soft with concern. "Stella, talk to me," she said, pulling up a chair. "What happened?" Stella's voice cracked as she recounted the video, the comments, the laughter. "They're right," she said, tears spilling. "I don't belong on that stage. I'm not enough." Ms. Rivera leaned forward, her lavender scent grounding. "Stella, you can't let them define you. I've heard you hum in here, seen the way your fingers dance over the keys. Your voice is your power. Use it." Hope, the word sparked a flicker in Stella's chest, a tiny flame of possibility. Ms. Rivera handed her a tissue, her smile gentle. "You're stronger than you know. And you've got people in your corner, me, Lila, maybe even some of those kids on X who are rooting for you." Stella wiped her eyes, the tissue damp in her hand. She wanted to believe it, to hold on to that sliver of light. Ms. Rivera stood, gesturing to the piano. "Play something. Just for you." Stella hesitated, then slid onto the bench, her fingers brushing the cool keys. She played the opening chords of "Landslide," her mother's favorite, her voice joining softly, "Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love?" For those few minutes, the world fell away, no Madison, no X, no expectations. Her voice, raw and unsteady, filled the room, a quiet rebellion against the noise. When she finished, Ms. Rivera clapped softly. "That's your truth, Stella. Don't let anyone take it." But the respite was brief. That night, in her bedroom, the fairy lights casting a warm glow over her records, Stella couldn't resist checking X again. The post had grown, now at 10,000 likes, the comments a battlefield. Climax, the cruelty hit harder, "She's a spoiled brat who can't handle the real world," one user wrote. Musk probably paid for her spot in the talent show. But woven among the hate were unexpected allies. "Don't listen to the haters, Stella. You've got this. I bet you're amazing. Sing for us." A user with a blue checkmark, some indie musician, had even posted, "Yo, Stella Musk, ignore the noise. If you've got a voice, let it rip. Hashtag sing your truth." The mix of venom and support left her dizzy, like she was standing on a tightrope over a chasm. She scrolled until her eyes burned, her fingers hovering over the reply button. She wanted to fight back, to say something, anything, but fear stopped her. What if she made it worse? What if she proved them right? She tossed her phone onto her bed, the screen glowing like a taunt. The locket around her neck felt heavy, her mom's photo inside a silent reminder of who she wanted to be. She stood, pacing her room, the Silicon Valley skyline glittering outside her window. The neon lights of tech offices flickered, a world her father had built but one she didn't fit into. She thought of Lila's fierce loyalty, Ms. Rivera's quiet faith, the strangers on X who saw something in her she couldn't see herself. Could she really do this? Could she step back into that auditorium, face Madison's smirk, and sing? The idea felt impossible, a mountain too steep to climb. But then she remembered her mom's voice, that last hospital whisper, "Sing for me, always." Stella sank onto her bed, pulling a record from the pile, Aretha Franklin's Respect. She placed it on the turntable, the needle crackling as the song began. She closed her eyes, letting Aretha's power wash over her, and sang along, her voice soft but growing stronger. For those 3 minutes, she wasn't Elon's daughter or Madison's target. She was Stella, a girl with a song in her heart, fighting to be heard. As the record spun to its end, Stella took a shaky breath. The world was still out there, ready to judge, but maybe, just maybe, she could face it. The X comments, the laughter, the doubt, they were loud, but her voice could be louder. She just had to find the courage to let it out. The music room at Palo Alto High School was a sanctuary of soft light and quiet echoes, its walls lined with faded posters of jazz legends and classical composers. On Tuesday, March 18, 2025, Stella Musk sat at the upright piano, her fingers hovering over the keys, the faint scent of wood polish mingling with her nervous sweat. Her dark hair was pulled into a messy bun, her glasses slipping down her nose as she stared at the sheet music Ms. Elena Rivera had placed before her. The viral X post from Madison Hayes still burned in her mind, 10,000 likes and counting, a digital dagger that had turned her talent show rehearsal into a public spectacle. But Ms. Rivera's words from yesterday lingered too, "Your voice is your power. Use it." Stella's heart thudded, a mix of fear and defiance. She'd spent the night replaying the supportive X comments, strangers who believed in her, who saw beyond the #MuskFlop hashtag. Lila's texts had been relentless, urging her not to give up. "You're not running from this, Stell," Lila had written at midnight. "You're bigger than their BS." Stella wasn't so sure, but the thought of letting Madison win, of letting her mom's memory fade into silence, was unbearable. Ms. Rivera appeared beside her, her lavender-scented cardigan a familiar comfort. "Stella, the talent shows in 2 weeks," she said, her brown eyes steady behind wire-rimmed glasses. "You don't have to decide today, but I think you should perform. Not for them, for you." She tapped the sheet music, a simple arrangement of "Landslide" by Fleetwood Mac. "This song suits your voice. It's raw, honest. Like you." Stella swallowed, her throat dry. "What if I mess up again? What if they laugh?" The memory of Madison's sneer, her clique's giggles, was a weight on her chest. The X video had made her a punchline, and the idea of stepping onto that stage felt like walking into a lion's den. Ms. Rivera knelt beside her, her voice soft but firm. "They might laugh. People can be cruel. But you know what's scarier than their judgment? Hiding who you are." She smiled, a spark of mischief in her eyes. "Besides, I've seen you sing in here when you think no one's listening. You've got a gift, Stella. Don't let fear steal it." Climax, the challenge felt impossible, a mountain too steep to climb. Stella's fingers trembled as she touched the piano keys, her mind screaming to run, to stay safe in the shadows. But then she thought of her mom, Sarah, teaching her to sing in their sunlit living room, her voice a warm embrace. "Sing for me, always." The words were a lifeline, pulling her toward a decision she wasn't ready to make. I'll think about it," Stella said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. Ms. Rivera nodded, squeezing her shoulder before stepping away to help another student. Stella stayed at the piano, playing the opening chords of "Landslide," her fingers hesitant but steady. The notes filled the room, a fragile thread of courage weaving through her doubt. Hope. That afternoon, Lila dragged Stella to their favorite diner, a retro spot on El Camino Real with neon signs and red vinyl booths. The jukebox blared Sweet Caroline, and the air smelled of burgers and coffee. Lila slid a strawberry milkshake across the table, her curls bouncing as she leaned forward. "Okay, Musk, spill. You're doing the talent show, right?" Stella stirred her milkshake, the straw swirling pink ripples. "I don't know, Lila. That video's everywhere. People are still posting about it on X." She pulled out her phone, scrolling to a new comment, "Stella Musk tripping is my new favorite meme." Her stomach twisted, but Lila snatched the phone, her eyes blazing. "Screw them," Lila said, slamming the phone face down. "You're not a meme, Stell. You're a freaking force. And you've got me, Ms. Rivera, and a bunch of randos on X cheering you on." She grinned, pulling up a post from the indie musician who defended Stella, "Still waiting for Stella Musk to drop that song. #Sing Your Truth." Lila's enthusiasm was infectious, a spark that warmed the cold edges of Stella's fear. "You've got 2 weeks to prep. I'll be your hype girl. Deal?" Stella managed a small smile, the first in days. "Deal," she said, the word feeling like a step into uncharted territory. Lila hooped, drawing stares from nearby tables, and for a moment, Stella felt lighter, like maybe she could do this. But the lightness didn't last. Climax. That evening, back in her room, Stella's courage faltered. She sat on her bed, the fairy lights casting a soft glow over her mother's vinyl collection. The X app glowed on her phone, tempting her to check the latest damage. Against her better judgment, she opened it, and her heart sank. Madison had posted again, a new photo from the rehearsal, Stella frozen mid-stumble, her glasses askew, captioned, "Ready for her big debut?" #MuskFlop Part 2. The comments were relentless. "Why does she even try? Rich girl problems, LOL." The likes ticked up, 12,000 now, each one a jab to her confidence. Stella tossed her phone onto the bed, her breath hitching. She stood, pacing the room, her sneakers scuffing the hardwood floor. The Silicon Valley skyline glittered outside her window, all sleek glass and neon, a world her father had shaped but one she felt lost in. Her locket swung against her chest, and she opened it, staring at the tiny photo of her and her mom under a summer sky. Sarah's smile was a beacon, urging her forward, but the weight of the world's judgment felt heavier than ever. She sank onto the floor, pulling a record from the pile, Aretha Franklin's "I Never Loved a Man the Way I Love You." The needle crackled as she set it spinning, Aretha's voice soaring through the room, "You're a no-good heartbreaker." Stella closed her eyes, letting the music wrap around her like a shield. She sang along, her voice soft at first, then growing bolder, filling the space with a strength she didn't know she had. For those few minutes, she wasn't the girl in the viral video or Elon Musk's daughter. She was Stella, raw and real, her voice a rebellion against the hate. When the song ended, she took a shaky breath, her hands still trembling. Ms. Rivera's words echoed, "Don't let fear steal it." Lila's grin flashed in her mind, her fierce belief a lifeline. And those X comments, the kind ones, lingered too, strangers who saw something in her she couldn't yet see. Stella stood, her reflection in the window a blurry silhouette against the neon glow. She thought of the talent show, the stage waiting like a challenge. It was an unexpected turn, a journey she hadn't planned but couldn't ignore. Could she really do this? Could she face Madison, the crowd, the world? She walked to her desk, pulling out a notebook filled with half-written lyrics, fragments of songs she'd never shared. Her pen hovered over a blank page, and she wrote a single line, "I'm more than their laughter, more than my name." It felt like a promise, fragile but real. The talent show was 2 weeks away, a deadline that loomed like a storm cloud. But for the first time since Friday, Stella felt a spark of determination, a need to prove them wrong, not just Madison, but herself. She glanced at the piano in the corner of her room, a gift from her dad after her mom's death, rarely played but always waiting. She sat at it, her fingers finding the chords of Landslide again. The notes were tentative, her voice a whisper, but they were hers. The room, with its fairy lights and records, felt like a cocoon, a space where she could begin to transform. Outside, Silicon Valley pulsed with ambition, but in here, Stella was starting a journey of her own, one that might just lead her to the stage, and beyond. The auditorium at Palo Alto High School was a sea of anticipation, its velvet curtains swaying slightly under the hum of air conditioning. On March 31, 2025, the night of the talent show, Stella Musk stood backstage, her heart pounding so fiercely she thought it might burst through her navy dress. The simple knee-length frock, chosen for its understated elegance, felt like armor against the eyes she knew were waiting. Her dark hair was loose, framing her face, and her glasses sat firmly on her nose, no longer a shield but a part of her. 2 weeks of relentless practice with Ms. Elena Rivera had led to this moment, but the memory of Madison Hayes' viral X post, now at 15,000 likes, still clawed at her confidence. The stage was alive with the energy of performers, a freshman juggler dropping pins, a sophomore dance crew practicing spins, the air thick with the scent of hairspray and nerves. Stella clutched her mother's locket, the silver star cool against her skin, whispering a silent prayer to Sarah, "Help me be brave." She'd chosen Landslide for its raw honesty, a song that felt like her mom's voice woven into her own. Lila Carter, her best friend, hovered nearby, her chestnut curls bouncing as she adjusted Stella's dress. "You're gonna kill it, Stell," Lila said, her hazel eyes fierce with pride. "Show 'em who you are." But doubt gnawed at Stella's edges. She'd spent the past 2 weeks in the music room, her voice growing stronger under Ms. Rivera's guidance, but the X comments haunted her, #MuskFlop, and, "She's just Elon's kid, no talent." The supportive posts, "Sing your truth, Stella," had kept her going, but the fear of failing in front of her peers, her school, the world, was a weight she couldn't shake. Climax, as her name echoed through the auditorium, announced by the MC, Stella's legs trembled, the spotlight waiting like a predator. She was next. She stepped toward the stage, her sneakers swapped for simple black flats that clicked softly on the wood. The curtain parted, revealing a crowd of students, parents, and teachers, their faces blurred under the bright lights. She spotted Madison Hayes in the front row, her blonde ponytail gleaming, a smirk playing on her lips. Stella's throat tightened, her breath shallow. She adjusted the microphone, her fingers clumsy, and began to sing, "I took my love, I took it down." Her voice was soft, tentative, but clear, carrying the melody with a fragile beauty. Then it happened. A screech pierced the air, feedback from the microphone so shrill it made the audience wince. Stella froze, her voice cut off mid-note. The crowd murmured, and Madison's laugh rang out, sharp and deliberate. Stella's eyes darted to the sound booth, where Chloe, Madison's minion, stood with a smug grin, her hand on the controls. Sabotage. The realization hit like a tidal wave, her worst fear come to life. The microphone crackled again, spitting static, and whispers rippled through the audience, "Typical Musk, what a mess." Climax, Stella's heart sank, her vision blurring with tears. She was failing, just as they'd predicted, her moment stolen before it could begin. She stood paralyzed, the spotlight burning her skin, the weight of 1,000 eyes crushing her. Madison's smirk widened, her phone already out, no doubt recording for another viral post. Stella wanted to run, to vanish into the shadows as she had 2 weeks ago. But then she saw Lila in the wings, her fists clenched, mouthing, "You've got this." Ms. Rivera was there too, her brown eyes steady, urging her to keep going. And in the crowd, a boy with tousled brown hair and a guitar case, Jake Thompson, a quiet classmate she barely knew, stood up, his expression kind. Hope. Jake stepped onto the stage, uninvited but determined, his guitar slung over his shoulder. The crowd hushed, confused. "Hey, Stella," he said softly, his voice cutting through the static. "Let's do this together." He strummed a gentle chord, the opening of Landslide, his fingers sure on the strings. The sound was warm, grounding, a lifeline thrown into her panic. Stella blinked, her tears falling, but something shifted inside her. She thought of her mom, singing through pain, never giving up. She thought of the ex-strangers who believed in her, the ones who saw beyond the hate. She took a shaky breath, stepping back to the microphone, which Jake had adjusted to bypass the sabotage settings. Her voice joined his guitar, tentative at first. "Climbed a mountain and I turned around." The notes were raw, trembling, but they grew stronger, weaving with Jake's chords in a harmony that silenced the crowd. Stella closed her eyes, letting the music carry her, her mom's locket warm against her chest. She sang of love and loss, her voice rising, clear and powerful, filling the auditorium with an emotion that felt like truth. The audience was still, their whispers replaced by a reverent quiet. Even Madison's smirk faltered, her phone lowering as Stella's voice soared, "Can I sail through the changing ocean tides?" Each note was a defiance, a reclaiming of her space. Jake's guitar anchored her, his steady presence a reminder she wasn't alone. When the final chord faded, the auditorium erupted in applause, a roar that shook the walls. Stella opened her eyes, stunned, tears streaming down her face. She'd done it. She'd sung, despite the sabotage, despite the fear. Climax, but the moment wasn't over. As she and Jake stepped back, the MC rushed forward, holding up his phone. "Folks, you're not gonna believe this," he said, his voice booming. "Stella's performance is already trending on X." He turned the screen to the crowd, showing a live feed of posts. "Stella Musk just owned that stage. #SingYourTruth," and "Who sabotaged her mic?" That was low, but she slayed. The likes were climbing, 20,000, 30,000. Faster than Madison's video ever had. The crowd cheered louder, some standing, their phones out to capture the moment. Stella's knees buckled, Jake catching her arm to steady her. She saw Madison in the front row, her face pale, her cliques silent for once. The truth was out, someone had tried to ruin her, but she'd risen above it. The applause was a tidal wave, washing away the sting of the past weeks. Lila rushed the stage, throwing her arms around Stella, screaming, "I told you, you're a freaking supernova." Ms. Rivera joined them, her eyes shining with pride. Backstage, Stella sank onto a prop crate, her breath ragged. Jake sat beside her, his guitar resting on his knee. "You were amazing," he said, his voice quiet but warm. I just couldn't let them do that to you." Stella managed a shaky smile, her heart still racing. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "I don't know how I would have gotten through that without you." The moment felt like a revelation, a crack in the walls she'd built around herself. She'd faced her fear, her voice carrying her through the sabotage, and the world had seen her, not as Elon's daughter, but as Stella. The X-posts kept coming, a flood of support that drowned out the hate. "She's got her mom's spirit," one user wrote, somehow knowing about Sarah. "That's real talent." Stella clutched her locket, her mom's presence tangible in the music she'd shared. But the high was fragile. As the applause faded, Stella knew this was only the beginning. Madison's sabotage had been exposed, but the talent show was local, X was global. The world was watching now, and the pressure to keep going, to prove herself again, loomed like a storm cloud. She looked at Jake, his kind eyes steady, and Lila, her fierce grin unwavering. They believed in her, and maybe, just maybe, she could start believing in herself. The auditorium lights dimmed as the next act took the stage, but Stella's world felt brighter, sharper. She'd crossed a threshold, her voice no longer a secret but a power. The journey ahead was daunting, but for the first time, she felt ready to face it, her mom's melody echoing in her heart. The Palo Alto night was cool and crisp, the stars above Silicon Valley twinkling like distant possibilities. Stella Musk sat on the steps outside the high school auditorium, her navy dress slightly wrinkled, her glasses fogged from the warmth of her breath. It was March 31, 2025, minutes after her talent show performance, a moment that had shifted her world. The roar of the crowd still echoed in her ears, their applause a tidal wave that had washed away the sting of Madison Hayes' sabotage. Her phone buzzed relentlessly in her pocket, X notifications piling up, posts praising her voice, her courage, her triumph over the sabotaged microphone. But inside, Stella was a tangle of emotions, her heart racing with both victory and vulnerability. Lila Carter plopped down beside her, her chestnut curls bouncing as she handed Stella a bottle of water. "You're a freaking legend, Stell," she said, her hazel eyes sparkling under the streetlights. "Did you see Madison's face? She looked like she swallowed a lemon." Lila's grin was infectious, but Stella's smile was tentative, her fingers tracing the star-shaped locket around her neck. The silver was warm from her skin, a reminder of her mom, Sarah, whose memory had carried her through the performance. Jake Thompson emerged from the auditorium, his guitar case slung over his shoulder, his brown hair tousled from the chaos of the night. He sat on Stella's other side, his presence quiet but steady, like the chords he'd played to save her on stage. "You okay?" he asked, his voice soft against the distant hum of traffic on El Camino Real. Stella nodded, though her hands still trembled. "I think so," she said, her voice hoarse from singing and crying. I can't believe I did it." The auditorium doors swung open, spilling out students and parents, their chatter a mix of excitement and awe. Ms. Elena Rivera approached, her lavender-scented cardigan slightly askew, her brown eyes shining with pride. "Stella, that was extraordinary," she said, kneeling to meet her gaze. "You turned their cruelty into something beautiful. That's real strength." Stella's cheeks flushed, the praise both warming and overwhelming. She'd spent so long hiding, convinced she was less than her father's name, but tonight, she'd been seen, not as Elon Musk's daughter, but as Stella. Climax, yet the weight of the moment pressed down. The X posts were a double-edged sword, thousands of likes, comments calling her inspiring and raw, but also reminders of the sabotage, the hashtag #MuskFlop still lingering in some corners. She pulled out her phone, the screen glowing with a new post from the indie musician who'd supported her. "Stella Musk just proved the haters wrong. That voice is fire. #Sing your truth." It had 50,000 likes, more than Madison's video ever had. But the attention felt like a spotlight she wasn't ready for, a world watching her every move. Lila nudged her shoulder. "You're trending, you know. People are calling you the underdog of the century." She scrolled through X, reading aloud. Stella's voice gave me chills. "Who tried to sabotage her? Disgusting." Stella's heart lifted, but the fear lingered. What if this was just a fluke? What if the world expected more, and she couldn't deliver? The thought was a knot in her stomach, a new kind of pressure. "Hope," Jake leaned closer, his guitar case resting against the steps. "You know, I've watched you in class," he said, his voice low. "You're always so quiet, but there's this fire in you. Tonight, everyone saw it." His words were a balm, soothing the raw edges of her doubt. Stella looked at him, his kind eyes steady, and felt a warmth she hadn't expected. Jake had been a stranger before tonight, just a classmate who nodded at her in the halls, but his courage on stage had changed everything. "Thanks for saving me up there," she said, her voice soft. "I was about to run." He smiled, a lopsided grin that made her heart skip. "Couldn't let you do that. You deserve to shine." Lila rolled her eyes playfully. "Okay, you too, save the mushy stuff. Stell, you're a star now. Own it." Stella laughed, the sound surprising her. For the first time in weeks, she felt a flicker of hope, a belief that maybe she could be more than her fears. Ms. Rivera stood, brushing off her cardigan. "The judges are announcing winners soon," she said. "But win or lose, Stella, you've already won something bigger. You showed up." She squeezed Stella's shoulder before heading back inside, leaving the trio in the quiet night. Stella took a sip of water, the cool liquid grounding her. She thought of her mom, the way Sarah had sung through pain, her voice a beacon of love. Tonight, Stella had sung for her, and the world had listened. Climax, the auditorium doors opened again, and the MC's voice boomed through a megaphone, "Stella Musk, please come to the stage." Stella's breath caught, her body tensing. Lila grabbed her hand, pulling her up. "This is it, Stell. Let's go." Jake followed, his guitar case bumping against his leg, his presence a quiet anchor. The crowd parted as they re-entered the auditorium, faces turning toward Stella, some with awe, others with curiosity. Madison sat in the front row, her arms crossed, her smirk gone, replaced by a tight-lipped frown. The MC, a senior with a booming voice, held up a trophy shaped like a golden note. "For outstanding performance and resilience," he said, "the judges unanimously award first place to Stella Musk." The crowd erupted, cheers and whistles shaking the rafters. Stella's knees buckled, Jake steadying her with a gentle hand. Lila hooped, throwing her arms around her. "Told you, Supernova," she shouted over the noise. Stella stepped forward, her hands shaking as she accepted the trophy, its weight surprising in her grasp. The spotlight was blinding, but she looked out at the crowd, seeing faces she didn't expect, classmates who'd ignored her, now clapping, teachers nodding with respect. Even Madison's clique was quiet, their phones lowered. The MC leaned into the mic, and word on X is, "Stella's performance is going viral, for all the right reasons. Keep singing, Stella." The applause swelled again, a wave of affirmation that felt like a hug from her mom. Stella clutched the trophy, her locket glinting under the lights. She thought of Sarah's final words, "Sing for me, always." She'd done that, and more, she'd sung for herself. The realization was a quiet earthquake, reshaping her understanding of who she could be. She wasn't just Elon's daughter or Madison's target. She was Stella, with a voice that could move a room, maybe even a world. Backstage, after the chaos settled, Stella sat with Lila and Jake, the trophy resting on her lap. The auditorium was emptying, but the energy of the night lingered, electric and warm. "What now?" Jake asked, his voice gentle. Stella looked at him, then at Lila, their belief in her a foundation she hadn't known she needed. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice steady despite the uncertainty. "But I think I want to keep singing." Lila grinned, punching her arm lightly. "That's my girl. You're not stopping here." Stella smiled, the weight of the trophy grounding her. She thought of the ex-posts, the strangers who'd seen her truth, and the ones who tried to break her. They hadn't won. She had. As they walked into the night, the Silicon Valley skyline glittering like a promise, Stella felt a shift inside her. The lesson was clear, etched into her heart: life is full of surprises, but courage and love will always lead the way. She'd faced her fear, turned pain into power, and found a piece of herself she'd thought was lost. Her mom's melody lived in her voice, and now, the world knew it too. But this was only the beginning. The stage had been hers tonight, but bigger ones waited, and with Lila and Jake by her side, she felt ready to face them. The Musk family mansion in Palo Alto was a fortress of glass and steel, its sleek lines cutting against the starry night sky of April 1, 2025. Stella Musk sat on her bedroom floor, the Golden Note trophy from last night's talent show gleaming on her desk, catching the soft glow of fairy lights strung across her ceiling. Her dark hair was loose, spilling over her oversized sweater, and her glasses rested crookedly on her nose. The room was a cocoon of memories, vinyl records stacked in haphazard piles, sci-fi novels spilling from shelves, a worn copy of The Little Prince nestled among them. The air smelled faintly of lavender from a candle she'd lit, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotion still swirling from her triumphant performance. Stella's fingers traced the edge of her mother's locket, the silver star warm from her touch. The talent show had been a turning point, her voice breaking through the sabotage and the #MuskFlop hashtag to earn her first place and a flood of support on X. But the victory felt fragile, like a melody that could fade if she didn't hold it tight. She opened the locket, revealing a tiny photo of her and Sarah, her mom, smiling under a summer sky in 2016. Sarah's dark hair, so like Stella's, framed her face, her eyes sparkling with a quiet strength. The memory of her mom's voice, soulful, warm, a lifeline through Stella's childhood, flooded back, anchoring her in a past that shaped everything she was. Stella was 8 when she'd last sat with Sarah in their old house, a cozy craftsman bungalow before Elon's empire demanded the mansion. The living room was a riot of color, Sarah's paintings of galaxies and nebulae on the walls, a guitar propped in the corner, vinyl records spinning on a turntable. Sarah, an artist with a voice like Aretha Franklin's, taught Stella to sing, her fingers guiding Stella's small hands over the guitar strings. "You've got music in your bones, Stell," she'd say, her smile brighter than the California sun. They'd sing "A Case of You" together, Joni Mitchell's lyrics weaving their bond tighter. Those moments were Stella's haven, a world where she wasn't Elon Musk's daughter, just her mom's little star. But cancer came like a thief, stealing Sarah when Stella was 9. The hospital room was sterile, all white walls and beeping machines, a stark contrast to their colorful home. Stella remembered sitting by Sarah's bed, her mom's hand frail but warm, her voice a whisper, "Sing for me, always." Those words became Stella's compass, guiding her through the grief that followed. After the funeral, the bungalow felt too empty, and Elon moved them to the mansion, a glass palace that echoed with absence. He threw himself into work, SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, leaving Stella with nannies and a hollow ache. She'd wander the halls, clutching the locket, singing softly to keep her mom close. Her relationship with Elon was a puzzle with missing pieces. He was a genius, a visionary who dreamed of Mars and rewrote the future, but as a father, he was a ghost. Stella loved him fiercely, but their moments were fleeting, late-night talks in his study, interrupted by X notifications or urgent calls. When she was 10, they'd built model rockets in the backyard, laughing when one fizzled and crashed into a rosebush. "Failure's just a step to success, kiddo," he'd said, ruffling her hair. But as his companies grew, so did the distance between them. Now, at 17, their conversations were brief, his blue eyes often fixed on a screen. "You're destined for greatness," he'd say, but Stella wondered if he saw her at all. School had been no easier. Palo Alto High was a pressure cooker of ambition, filled with kids of tech moguls and overachievers who eyed Stella with a mix of envy and skepticism. By middle school, she'd learned to shrink, her oversized sweaters and glasses a shield against their whispers, "Her dad's a billionaire, so why is she so quiet?" or "Bet she's only here because of Elon." The words planted seeds of doubt that grew into a forest of insecurity. She'd sit alone at lunch, doodling stars in her notebook, until Lila Carter crashed into her life in 7th grade. Lila, with her wild curls and fearless attitude, was everything Stella wasn't: bold, unapologetic, a future journalist who spoke her mind. They'd bonded over a science project, Lila dragging Stella to In-N-Out for milkshakes afterward, coaxing her to sing along to the car radio. "You've got a voice like a sunrise," Lila had said, her hazel eyes wide. Stella had blushed, brushing it off, but Lila's belief was a spark that never faded. When classmates mocked Stella for her dad's eccentric ex-posts or her quietness, Lila was her defender, her cheerleader, her family. Lila's chaotic household, 3 siblings, parents arguing over pizza toppings, was a world Stella envied, a normalcy her mansion lacked. Now, sitting among her mom's records, Stella felt the weight of last night's triumph and the shadows of her past collide. The talent show had been her first step out of hiding, her voice a bridge to Sarah's memory. But the X posts, now at 60,000 likes, were a reminder of the world's eyes on her. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through the comments. Stella Musk is a queen. That sabotage was low, but she rose above. Yet the haters lingered. One song doesn't make her a star. The mix of praise and doubt was dizzying, a tightrope she wasn't sure she could walk. She stood, pacing her room, the hardwood floor cool under her socks. The fairy lights cast a warm glow over her bookshelves, where the little prince sat, its pages worn from her mom's bedtime readings. A memory surfaced, sharp and vivid. Stella at 7, curled up on Sarah's lap, her mom's voice soft as she read about the prince's rose. "Love's about seeing someone's heart, Stell," Sarah had said, tapping her chest. "Yours is a galaxy." Stella had believed her then, but after Sarah's death, that galaxy felt dim, overshadowed by her father's fame and her own fears. She stopped at her window, the Silicon Valley skyline glittering outside, neon-lit tech offices, a world Elon had built but one she felt lost in. She thought of her dad, probably awake in his study, tweeting about Starship or sparring with critics on X. Had he seen her performance? She'd texted him about the talent show, but his reply was a distracted, "Proud of you, kiddo. Busy day, talk soon." The word stung, a reminder of the gap between them. She wanted to tell him about the sabotage, the applause, the way she'd felt her mom on stage. But would he listen? A knock on her door startled her. Lila poked her head in, her grin wide. "Yo, superstar, you hiding in here?" She flopped onto Stella's bed, grabbing the trophy. "This thing's heavy. You're keeping it forever, right?" Stella laughed, the sound easing the knot in her chest. "Maybe," she said, sitting beside her. Lila nudged her. "You're not stopping here, Stell. That stage was just the start." Stella's gaze drifted to the piano in the corner, a gift from Elon after Sarah's death. She'd rarely played it, afraid of the memories it held, but last night had changed something. She walked to it, her fingers brushing the keys, and played a soft chord from Landslide. The notes were a bridge to her mom, to the girl she'd been before doubt took root. Lila watched, her eyes soft. "Your mom would be so proud," she said quietly. The words unlocked something in Stella. She thought of Sarah's strength, singing through chemo, and of Lila's unwavering faith, Jake's quiet courage on stage. They were her family, in their own way, filling the spaces Elon couldn't. She opened her notebook, the one filled with half-written lyrics, and wrote, "I sang for you, Mom, and found myself." The talent show had been a victory, but it was also a lesson. Her voice was her power, not her father's name or the world's judgment. As the candle flickered, casting shadows over the records, Stella felt a quiet resolve. The world was still out there, Madison, X, the weight of her last name, but she wasn't alone. Her mom's love, Lila's loyalty, Jake's kindness, they were her constellation, guiding her forward. She didn't know what came next, but for the first time, she wanted to find out. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The April sun beat down on Palo Alto, its golden light filtering through the glass walls of the Musk family mansion. On April 15, 2025, Stella Musk stood in her bedroom, her dark hair pulled into a loose ponytail, her glasses slipping as she packed a duffel bag with trembling hands. Her navy sweater was swapped for a simple white tee, a small rebellion against her usual armor. The Golden Note trophy from the talent show 2 weeks ago gleamed on her desk, a reminder of her triumph over Madison Hayes' sabotage. But today, a new challenge loomed, a national singing competition in Los Angeles, a stage far bigger than Palo Alto High's auditorium. Her locket, etched with a silver star, swung against her chest, her mom's presence a quiet anchor. The idea had come from Lila Carter, her best friend, who'd burst into the music room last week with a flyer for Star Voice USA, a televised contest seeking America's next singing sensation. "This is your shot, Stell," Lila had said, her chestnut curls bouncing, her hazel eyes alight with conviction. "You own that talent show. Now show the country." Ms. Elena Rivera had agreed, her lavender-scented cardigan brushing Stella's shoulder as she added, "Your voice deserves to be heard, Stella. This is the next step." Even Jake Thompson, the guitarist who'd saved her performance, had nodded, his lopsided grin encouraging. "You've got this," he'd said, strumming a chord for emphasis. Climax, but the thought of performing on a national stage, with cameras and judges and millions watching, made Stella's stomach churn. The X-posts from her talent show had exploded, 100,000 likes now, a mix of praise and lingering #MuskFlop jabs. The world knew her name, not just as Elon Musk's daughter but as the girl who'd risen above sabotage. The pressure to live up to that moment was crushing, a mountain she wasn't sure she could climb. What if she froze again? What if the world saw her as a fraud? She zipped her duffel, her fingers brushing a notebook filled with lyrics she'd written since the talent show, fragments of her heart, inspired by her mom, Sarah. She'd spent hours in the music room with Ms. Rivera, refining Landslide and crafting an original song, a ballad about finding light in the dark. Jake had joined her twice, his guitar weaving harmonies that made her voice soar. But Los Angeles was a different beast, a city of dreams and ruthless ambition. Stella glanced at her phone, an X notification popping up, Stella Musk heading to Star Voice USA. Bet she'll choke. #MuskFlop. Her breath hitched, the words a dagger to her fragile confidence. Hope. Lila burst into the room, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her grin undeterred. "Ready to be a superstar, Musk?" she asked, tossing a granola bar onto the bed. "We're driving to LA in an hour. Jake's coming too, he's got family there, so he's tagging along for moral support." Stella's heart lifted at the thought of Jake, his quiet strength a comfort she hadn't expected. Lila plopped onto the bed, scrolling X on her phone. "Look at this," she said, holding up a post, "Stella Musk is gonna slay Star Voice. That voice is unreal. #Sing Your Truth." It had 20,000 likes, a wave of support that drowned out the haters for a moment. Stella managed a small smile, the granola bar untouched. "What if I mess up, Lila? This isn't just school. It's huge." Lila grabbed her hand, her grip fierce. "You're huge, Stell. You faced Madison's crap and came out on top. This is just a bigger stage." Jake appeared at the door, his guitar case in hand, his brown hair falling into his eyes. "She's right," he said, his voice calm. "You've got something real. Just sing like you did that night." His words were a lifeline, pulling her from the edge of doubt. The drive to Los Angeles was a 5-hour blur of Lila's playlists, everything from Billie Eilish to Aretha Franklin, blasting through the speakers of her beat-up Honda. Stella sat in the front, Jake in the back, his guitar case wedged beside him. The California landscape unfolded outside, golden hills, sprawling suburbs, the distant shimmer of the Pacific. Stella clutched her locket, her mom's voice echoing in her mind, "Sing for me, always." She thought of Sarah's strength, singing through chemo, and felt a spark of courage. Maybe she could do this. Maybe she could be more than her fears. Climax, Los Angeles greeted them with a frenzy of lights and noise, the Star Voice USA auditions held in a massive convention center downtown. The air buzzed with ambition, contestants warming up, their voices a cacophony of scales and riffs. Stella's heart raced as she checked in, her name tag reading, Stella Musk, in bold letters, drawing stares from other singers. Some whispered, recognizing her from the viral X posts, others sneered, assuming her father's name had bought her a spot. The auditorium was a beast, its stage dwarfing Palo Alto's, with cameras perched like vultures and judges in sleek suits scribbling notes. Stella's turn came too soon, her name echoing through the speakers. She stepped onto the stage, her white tee and jeans feeling too plain under the blinding lights. The judges. A Grammy-winning producer, a pop star, and a vocal coach, watched with neutral expressions. She adjusted her glasses, her hands trembling, and nodded to the sound tech, who cued her backing track for Landslide. Her voice started soft, shaky. I took my love, I took it down. The notes felt fragile, exposed, and she sensed the audience's skepticism, their whispers a low hum. Then she saw Lila and Jake in the front row, Lila's thumbs up fierce, Jake's eyes steady. She closed her eyes, picturing her mom's smile, and let her voice rise, raw and powerful. Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? The room hushed, the judges leaning forward, their pens still. Stella poured her heart into the song, each note a piece of her mom, her pain, her triumph. When the final chord faded, the crowd erupted, a roar that shook her to her core. The pop star judge stood, clapping, her smile wide. That was real, she said into the mic. You've got soul, Stella. Stella stumbled off stage, her legs weak, Lila and Jake rushing to meet her. Lila hugged her so tightly she could barely breathe. You freaking nailed it, she shouted. Jake grinned, his hand brushing hers briefly. Told you, he said, his voice warm. The producer's voice boomed over the speakers. Stella Musk, you're advancing to the next round. The crowd cheered again, and Stella's tears fell, a mix of relief and disbelief. But the moment was bittersweet. As they left the auditorium, Stella checked X, her heart sinking. A new post from Madison had surfaced, a blurry photo from the talent show Sabotage. Stella Musk thinks she's a star. Wait till LA chews her up. #MuskFlop. The comments were brutal. She's only there because of Elon. Bet she paid for that spot. The hate was a cold wave, threatening to drown her victory. Yet among the noise were voices of support. Stella's voice is magic. Haters gonna hate. #SingYourTruth. Stella clutched her locket, her mom's photo a quiet strength. The convention center's neon lights cast a glow over the parking lot, Los Angeles sprawling before them like a challenge. This was her new journey, a stage bigger than she'd ever imagined, filled with hardships and possibilities. Lila linked arms with her, Jake walking close, his guitar a steady presence. You're not alone, Stell, Lila said, her voice firm. We're with you. Stella nodded, her heart pounding but resolute. The road ahead was daunting, cameras, judges, a world ready to judge, but she'd faced worse and survived. Her mom's melody lived in her, and with Lila and Jake by her side, she felt ready to keep singing, to keep fighting, to keep becoming herself. The Los Angeles Convention Center buzzed with electric energy, its vast halls echoing with the voices of Star Voice USA contestants warming up for the second round on April 22, 2025. Stella Musk stood backstage, her white tee clinging to her skin from nervous sweat, her dark hair tucked behind her ears, glasses fogged slightly under the harsh stage lights. The air smelled of hairspray and ambition, a heady mix that made her stomach churn. Her locket, etched with a silver star, pressed against her chest, a reminder of her mom, Sarah, whose memory had carried her through the first audition a week ago. That performance of Landslide had earned her a spot in this round, but the weight of expectations, her own and the world's, felt heavier than ever. Stella's phone vibrated in her pocket, a distraction she couldn't ignore. X was ablaze with posts about her. Stella Musk killed it in round 1. #SingYourTruth had 80,000 likes, but Madison Hayes' latest jab, she's only there because of Elon. #MuskFlop was gaining traction, now at 25,000 likes. The comments were a battlefield. She's got no talent, just a famous dad, clashed with, her voice is unreal, haters shut up. Stella's heart raced, the praise lifting her but the hate cutting deeper. She'd faced Madison's sabotage at the talent show, but this was national, televised, a stage where every misstep could be immortalized. Lila Carter paced beside her, her chestnut curls bouncing, her hazel eyes scanning the crowd. Ignore the noise, Stell, she said, her voice firm. You're here because you're good, not because of your last name. Jake Thompson leaned against a prop crate, his guitar case at his feet, his brown hair falling into his eyes. He'd stayed in LA with his aunt, joining Stella and Lila for support. "Just focus on the music," he said, his voice a calm anchor. "You've got this." Stella nodded, clutching her lyric notebook, but doubt gnawed at her. What if they were right? What if she was just a rich girl playing at being a star? Climax, the first conflict hit as Stella prepared for her performance. She'd chosen her original ballad, Light in the Dark, a song she'd written about her mom, poured over late nights with Jake's guitar harmonies. But as she approached the stage manager to confirm her track, he frowned, flipping through his clipboard. "Musk, right? Your song's been switched. Someone submitted a pop cover instead, Roar, by Katy Perry." Stella's heart stopped. "That's not right," she stammered. "I submitted an original." The manager shrugged, impatient. "Paperwork says otherwise. You're up in 10. Figure it out." Panic surged, a betrayal she couldn't process. Someone had tampered with her submission, forcing her into a song she hadn't practiced, one that didn't suit her voice. She glanced at Lila, whose eyes widened. "This smells like Madison," Lila hissed, pulling out her phone. "Bet her clique's got connections here." Stella's mind raced to Madison's ex-post, the venom in her words. Could she have orchestrated this from Palo Alto? The thought was a knife, twisting her confidence. She wasn't ready for a pop anthem, her strength was in raw, soulful ballads. The stage loomed, cameras ready to capture her failure. "Hope," Lila grabbed her shoulders, her grip fierce. "You can do this, Stell. You've got a voice that moves people. Pop or not, you'll make it yours." Jake stepped forward, his guitar in hand. "I've got an acoustic version of Roar worked out," he said, his lopsided grin steadying her. "Let's strip it down, make it you." They huddled in a corner, Jake strumming softly, teaching her the chords in minutes. Stella's voice trembled as she tested the melody, but Jake's calm presence and Lila's fierce encouragement grounded her. "You're not alone," Lila said, squeezing her hand. "Show them what you're made of." Stella took a deep breath, her locket warm against her skin. She thought of her mom, singing through pain, and of the talent show, where she'd turned sabotage into triumph. Maybe she could do it again. The stage manager called her name, and she stepped forward, Jake at her side with his guitar. The auditorium was a sea of faces, judges in their sleek suits, cameras glinting like eyes. She spotted a few contestants whispering, their glances sharp. Some knew her from X, others saw her as Elon's daughter, not a singer. The pressure was suffocating, but Jake's chords began, soft and steady, and Stella sang, "I got the eye of the tiger, a fighter." Her voice, raw and soulful, transformed the pop anthem into something intimate, powerful. The crowd leaned in, the judges' pens pausing. She poured her heart into the lyrics, turning defiance into a story of her own, her mom's loss, her fear, her fight. When the final note faded, the auditorium erupted, a standing ovation that shook the rafters. The pop star judge, her eyes wide, said into the mic, "That was unexpected. You made that song yours, Stella. Incredible." Stella's tears fell, relief and pride mingling as Lila rushed the stage, hugging her tightly. Jake grinned, his hand brushing hers, a quiet spark in the chaos. Climax, but the victory was short-lived. Backstage, as Stella caught her breath, her phone buzzed with a new ex-post, this one from an anonymous account with a Palo Alto IP. Stella Musk bribed her way into Star Voice. Her dad's money talks. #MuskFlop. The post included a doctored email screenshot, claiming Elon had paid the producers to advance her. It was spreading fast, 30,000 likes in an hour, comments piling up, no wonder she got through. Fake talent, real cash. Stella's heart sank, the betrayal deeper than the song's switch. Madison's hand was clear, even from 400 miles away, her influence a poison seeping through X. Lila's face reddened as she read the post. "This is bull," she spat, typing furiously. "I'm calling her out." Stella grabbed her arm, her voice shaking. "Don't. It'll make it worse." Jake frowned, his guitar resting against the wall. "This isn't right, Stella. You earned that performance." But the doubt crept back, a familiar shadow. Was she here because of her talent, or was her last name a golden ticket? The judge's praise felt hollow now, tainted by the accusation. The convention center's neon lights cast a harsh glow as they stepped outside, Los Angeles sprawling before them like a glittering trap. Stella clutched her locket, her mom's photo a silent strength. The crowd's cheers echoed in her mind, but the ex-post was louder, a reminder of the world's judgment. She thought of her dad, probably buried in a SpaceX meeting, unaware of the storm brewing online. Would he believe the rumors? Would he care? Lila linked arms with her, her voice fierce. "You're not letting this stop you, Stell. You're better than their lies." Jake nodded, his eyes steady. "We'll figure out who's behind this. You focus on the next round." Stella managed a nod, her heart heavy but resolute. The competition was only beginning, and the stakes were higher now, cameras, rumors, a nation watching. But her mom's melody lived in her, a light in the dark, and with Lila and Jake by her side, she felt a flicker of strength. This was her journey, and she wasn't ready to give up. The city's skyline shimmered, a challenge and a promise. Stella took a deep breath, her voice a quiet vow, "I'll keep singing." The road ahead was fraught with obstacles, misunderstandings, betrayals, the weight of her name, but she'd faced worse and survived. Her mom had taught her to sing through pain, and now, she'd sing through this storm, too. The Los Angeles Convention Center pulsed with anticipation, its cavernous auditorium awash in golden stage lights and the electric hum of a live audience. On April 29, 2025, Stella Musk stood backstage at the Star Voice USA semi-finals, her heart hammering like a drumline in her chest. Her white tee was swapped for a simple black dress, its hem brushing her knees, a nod to the confidence she was still learning to wear. Her dark hair fell loose, framing her face, and her glasses sat steady, no longer a shield but a part of her. Her locket, etched with a silver star, pressed against her skin, a tether to her mom, Sarah, whose memory had carried her through the sabotaged song in the last round. But tonight, the stakes were higher, a spot in the global Star Voice competition in London was on the line, and the world was watching. The air backstage was thick with the scent of hairspray and nervous energy, contestants warming up with scales and whispers. Stella clutched her lyric notebook, its pages filled with "Light in the Dark," her original ballad. She'd rewritten it after the last round's sabotage, pouring her pain and defiance into every line. Lila Carter hovered nearby, her chestnut curls bouncing as she adjusted Stella's mic pack. "You're gonna own this, Stell," she said, her hazel eyes fierce. Jake Thompson leaned against a prop crate, his guitar ready, his brown hair falling into his eyes. He'd arranged an acoustic version of her song, his chords a perfect match for her voice. "Just sing like it's us in the music room," he said, his lopsided grin a quiet anchor. But Stella's nerves were raw. The ex-post accusing her of bribing her way into the competition had exploded, 50,000 likes, a viral storm fueled by Madison Hayes' Palo Alto clique. Comments like "Elon's money bought her spot" and #MuskFlop strikes again clashed with supporters. Stella's voice is real. Haters are just loud. The judges, a Grammy-winning producer, a pop star, and a vocal coach, hadn't mentioned the rumors, but their scrutiny felt heavier tonight, their pens poised like swords. Stella's phone buzzed with a new X notification. Stella Musk better bring it tonight, or she's done. #Star Voice. Her stomach twisted, the pressure a weight she could barely carry. The first shock came minutes before her performance. A stagehand rushed over, his face pale. "Stella, there's a problem. Your backing track's corrupted, glitching out. We've got no audio." Stella's heart stopped, her breath catching. Another sabotage? The memory of the talent show's microphone feedback and the last round song switch flooded back. Lila's eyes narrowed. This is no accident, she hissed, scanning the backstage crowd. Madison's got to have someone here. Jake clenched his jaw, his guitar strapped tight on his shoulder. We don't need the track, he said. I'll play live. You sing, Stella. We've got this. Panic surged, a tidal wave threatening to drown her. Performing without a backing track, with only Jake's guitar, was raw, exposed, a risk that could expose every flaw. The cameras were rolling, the judges waiting, the audience buzzing with anticipation and judgment. She glanced at the crowd, spotting faces from ex-posts, some cheering, others whispering, their phones ready to capture her failure. Madison's influence loomed, a shadow from Palo Alto that refused to fade. Stella's hands trembled, her voice a whisper, I can't do this. Lila grabbed her shoulders, her grip fierce. Yes, you can. You faced a sabotaged mic and made it magic. This is just another hurdle. Jake nodded, his eyes steady. Your song's about finding light, right? Be that light, Stella. He strummed a soft chord, the opening of Light in the Dark, its melody a lifeline. Stella closed her eyes, clutching her locket, her mom's voice echoing, sing for me, always. She thought of the talent show, the way she'd turned pain into power, and the ex-supporters who saw her truth. Maybe she could do it again. The stage manager called her name, the crowd's murmur rising. Stella stepped onto the stage, Jake at her side, his guitar a steady presence. The auditorium was a sea of faces, the judges' eyes sharp, the cameras glinting like predators. The lights were blinding, but Stella found Lila in the front row, her thumbs up fierce, and let Jake's chords guide her. She began to sing, in the shadows, I was lost, searching for a spark. Her voice was raw, trembling at first, but it grew stronger, weaving with Jake's guitar in a haunting harmony. The song was her story, her mom's death, her fear, her fight to be seen. Each note was a piece of her heart, raw and unfiltered, carrying the weight of her grief and her hope. The crowd fell silent, the judges leaning forward, the pop star's eyes glistening. Stella's voice soared, I'll find the light in the dark, I'll sing my way through. The final note hung in the air, pure and powerful, and the auditorium erupted, a standing ovation that shook the walls. The producer stood, clapping, his voice booming, that was breathtaking, Stella. You're a storyteller. The pop star wiped a tear, adding, you moved me. That's rare. Stella stumbled off stage, her legs weak, tears streaming down her face. Lila rushed her, hugging her tightly. You're a freaking force, Stell. Jake grinned, his hand brushing hers, a spark in the chaos. The judges' scores flashed on a screen, 9.8, 9.7, 9. 9, the highest of the night. The MC's voice boomed, Stella Musk advances to the Global Star Voice competition in London. The crowd roared, phones lighting up with ex-posts, Stella Musk just owned Star Voice. Hashtag Sing Your Truth was trending, 100,000 likes in minutes. But the triumph was bittersweet. As Stella caught her breath backstage, her phone buzzed with a new ex-post, this one from Madison herself, Stella's faking it. Her dad's pulling strings. Hashtag MuskFlop. Attached was a grainy video from the talent show Sabotage, edited to make Stella look like she'd staged the microphone failure for sympathy. The post was spreading faster than her victory, 75,000 likes, comments flooding in, she's a fraud. Elon's money wins again. The betrayal cut deeper than ever, a knife twisting in her heart. Madison's lies were relentless, turning Stella's moment into a conspiracy. Lila's face reddened, her fingers typing furiously. I'm done with this witch, she spat. I'm exposing her. Stella grabbed her arm, her voice shaking. No, Lila. It'll make it worse. Jake frowned, his guitar resting against the wall. This isn't fair, Stella. You deserve better. But the doubt was back, a shadow over her victory. Was her talent enough, or was her last name tainting everything? The judges' praise, the crowd's cheers, they felt fragile now, like a melody that could fade. The convention center's neon lights cast a harsh glow as they stepped outside, Los Angeles sprawling before them, a city of dreams and knives. Stella clutched her locket, her mom's photo a silent strength. The global competition in London loomed, a stage even bigger, with stakes she couldn't fathom. She thought of her dad, Elon, probably buried in a Neuralink meeting, unaware of the lies spreading online. Would he believe her, or the rumors? Lila linked arms with her, her voice fierce. You're not letting this stop you, Stell. You're going to London, and you're gonna shine. Jake nodded, his eyes steady. We're with you, every step. Stella took a deep breath, her heart heavy but resolute. The world was watching, judging, but her mom's melody lived in her, a light in the dark. She'd faced sabotage before and turned it into triumph. London was her next challenge, and with Lila and Jake by her side, she felt a flicker of courage. Her voice was her power, and she wasn't ready to let it go. The London sky was a canvas of grey, rain streaking the windows of the Royal Albert Hall on May 15, 2025. Stella Musk stood backstage at the Global Star Voice competition, her black dress clinging to her frame, her dark hair pulled into a loose braid, her glasses steady but fogged from nervous breaths. The iconic venue's crimson curtains and gilded arches loomed, a far cry from the Palo Alto High Auditorium or the Los Angeles Convention Center. Her locket, etched with a silver star, pressed against her chest, a tether to her mom, Sarah, whose memory had carried her through sabotage and scrutiny to this moment. But the weight of the global stage, cameras from every angle, an international audience, judges from music capitals, felt like a planet on her shoulders. Stella's journey to London had been a whirlwind. After her Star Voice USA semi-final triumph, where she'd turned a sabotage track into a standing ovation, she'd been whisked across the Atlantic, Lila Carter and Jake Thompson at her side. Lila, her best friend, was a bundle of energy, her chestnut curls bouncing as she snapped photos of the hall's ornate ceiling. This place is insane, Stell, she said, her hazel eyes wide. You're about to make history. Jake, guitar case slung over his shoulder, offered a lopsided grin. Just you and the music, he said, his brown hair falling into his eyes. Like always. But Stella's heart raced with doubt. The ex-posts had followed her across the ocean, Madison Hayes' latest lie, a doctored video claiming Stella staged her talent show sabotage, now at 100,000 likes. Comments tore at her, she's a fraud, all Elon's money. #MuskFlop faking it again. Yet supporters fought back, Stella's voice is pure. Haters can't touch her. #Sing your truth. The global stage amplified everything, and the pressure to prove herself, not as Elon Musk's daughter, but as Stella, was crushing. Climax, as she prepared to perform her original ballad, Light in the Dark, a stagehand approached, his face grim. Miss Musk, your slot's been moved up. You're on in 5 minutes. Stella's breath caught, panic surging. The sudden change threw her off, her carefully planned warm-up routine shattered. Was this another sabotage, Madison's reach extending to London? Lila's eyes narrowed. This stinks, she muttered, scanning the bustling backstage area. Someone's messing with you again. Jake gripped his guitar, his jaw tight. Doesn't matter. We've got this. But Stella's hands trembled, her lyric notebook nearly slipping from her grasp. The Royal Albert Hall's grandeur was intimidating, its 5,000 seats filled with a global audience, their murmurs a low roar. Cameras swiveled, live streaming to millions on X and beyond. She thought of her mom, singing through pain, but the fear was a tidal wave, threatening to drown her courage. An unexpected ally emerged from the chaos. A contestant, a petite girl with a South African accent named Amara, approached, her dreadlocks tied back, her eyes kind. "Stella, right?" she said, her voice soft. "I saw your LA performance on X. You're the real deal." She handed Stella a bottle of water, her smile warm. "They're trying to rattle you. Don't let them. Sing your truth." Amara's words were a lifeline, a reminder that not everyone saw her as a target. Stella took a sip, her throat easing, and nodded. "Thanks," she whispered, her voice shaky but grateful. Lila squeezed her hand, her fierceness a spark. "You're a supernova, Stell. Blow their minds." Jake tuned his guitar, his chords a familiar comfort. "Let's do this like it's the music room," he said, his eyes steady. Stella clutched her locket, picturing her mom's smile under a summer sky. She'd faced sabotage before, Madison's microphone trick, the switched song in LA, and turned it into triumph. Maybe she could do it again. The stage manager called her name, and she stepped forward, Jake at her side, Amara giving a thumbs up from the wings. The Royal Albert Hall stage was a cathedral of sound, its acoustics amplifying every breath. The audience was a sea of faces, British, American, Asian, African, united by music but ready to judge. The judges, a mix of global music icons, sat at a polished table, their eyes sharp. Stella adjusted her mic, Jake's guitar strumming the opening of "Light in the Dark." Her voice began, soft and raw, "In the shadows, I was lost, searching for a spark." The notes were a confession, weaving her grief for her mom, her fight against hate, her search for herself. The crowd leaned in, the hall falling silent, her voice and Jake's chords filling the space like a heartbeat. She poured everything into the song, her mom's death, the ex-lies, the courage she'd found in Palo Alto and LA. "I'll find the light in the dark, I'll sing my way through," her voice soared, powerful and pure, the locket warm against her chest. The judge's pen stilled, one wiping her eyes. When the final note faded, the hall erupted, a standing ovation that shook the rafters. Stella's tears fell, her legs weak, but Jake's hand brushed hers, grounding her. The lead judge, a British producer, stood, his voice booming, "Stella Musk, that was a masterclass in emotion. You're a storyteller." The crowd roared louder, phones lighting up with X posts, "Stella just broke the internet. #sing your truth." But the triumph was short-lived. As Stella and Jake stepped off stage, Lila rushed over, her face pale, her phone in hand. "Stell, you need to see this," she said, her voice trembling. An X post from an anonymous account had gone viral, 150,000 likes in minutes, Stella Musk's original song. Stolen from an obscure indie artist. #MuskFlop. Attached was a clip of a similar melody from a little-known track, edited to sound eerily like "Light in the Dark." The comments were vicious: "She's a thief. Elon's daughter, stealing talent now." Stella's heart sank, the accusation a knife to her soul. She'd written every word of her song, poured her heart into it, but the lie was spreading faster than her victory. Lila's eyes blazed. "This is Madison's doing. I know it. That video's fake." Jake clenched his fists, his guitar case at his feet. "We'll prove it's yours, Stella. You wrote that song from scratch." But the doubt was a poison, seeping into her. The crowd's cheers faded in her mind, replaced by the ex-hate. Had she come this far only to be branded a fraud? She thought of her dad, Elon, probably in a SpaceX meeting, unaware of the storm. Would he believe her, or the lies? Amara joined them, her face grim. "I've seen this before," she said. "People try to tear down anyone who shines. Keep going, Stella." Her words were a spark, but the weight of the accusation was crushing. The Royal Albert Hall's grandeur felt oppressive now, its golden lights a harsh spotlight. Stella clutched her locket, her mom's photo a silent strength. The global competition was only beginning, and the stakes were higher than ever: cameras, lies, a world ready to tear her down. Lila linked arms with her, her voice fierce. "You're not stopping here, Stell. We'll fight this." Jake nodded, his eyes steady. "You're not alone. We'll get through this." Stella took a shaky breath, the London rain pattering outside, a mirror to her turmoil. The stage had been hers tonight, but the war wasn't over. Her mom's melody lived in her, a light in the dark, and with Lila, Jake, and now Amara by her side, she felt a flicker of resolve. She'd sing through this storm, just as she'd sung through the others, and prove her truth to the world. The Royal Albert Hall's backstage was a labyrinth of crimson curtains and flickering lights, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and nervous sweat. On May 16, 2025, Stella Musk stood in a quiet corner, her black dress slightly wrinkled, her dark hair unraveling from its braid, her glasses fogged from the heat of her racing pulse. Her locket, etched with a silver star, pressed against her chest, a tether to her mom, Sarah, whose memory had fueled her breathtaking performance of Light in the Dark the previous night. The standing ovation, the judges' praise, and her advancement in the global Star Voice competition had felt like a triumph. Until the ex-post accusing her of plagiarism shattered her victory. The lie, claiming her original song was stolen, had exploded to 200,000 likes, a viral storm that threatened to drown her. Lila Carter paced nearby, her chestnut curls bouncing, her hazel eyes blazing as she scrolled through X on her phone. "This is Madison's work, I swear," she muttered, her voice sharp. That fake video's got her fingerprints all over it. Jake Thompson leaned against a prop crate, his guitar case at his feet, his brown hair falling into his eyes. "We need to trace that account," he said, his voice steady but tense. "You wrote that song, Stella. We'll prove it." Amara, the South African contestant who'd become an unexpected ally, nodded from across the room, her dreadlocks tied back, her eyes kind but worried. "Stay strong, Stella," she called. "The truth always comes out." But Stella's heart was a knot of doubt. The ex-post had turned her moment of glory into a scandal, with comments like "Stella Musk, thief of songs," and #MuskFlop strikes again, cutting deeper than any sabotage before. The global stage amplified the scrutiny, with international media picking up the story: Elon Musk's daughter accused of plagiarism at Star Voice. The judges hadn't mentioned it, but their glances felt sharper today, their pens poised like judges of her soul. Stella clutched her lyric notebook, its pages proof of her song's creation, but who would believe her against the internet's roar? The first blow came during the morning rehearsal. As Stella prepared for the next round, a duet with Amara, a judge's challenge to test collaboration, a stage manager approached, his clipboard clutched tightly. "Miss Musk, there's an issue," he said, his voice clipped. "Some contestants are questioning your participation. They're citing the plagiarism claims, demanding an investigation." Stella's breath caught, her vision blurring. A group of competitors nearby, led by a sharp-eyed British singer named Liam, whispered loudly, their glances venomous. "She shouldn't be here if she's stealing," Liam said, loud enough for her to hear. "It's not fair to the rest of us." The betrayal stung, a misunderstanding fueled by Madison's lies. Stella's hands trembled, her notebook nearly slipping. She'd written "Light in the Dark" in her bedroom, pouring her grief for her mom into every line, but the world saw her as a fraud. Lila stepped forward, her voice fierce. "That's garbage, and you know it. Stella's song is hers." Amara joined them, her presence calming. "I've seen her passion," she said to Liam. "You're buying into lies." But Liam's sneer didn't waver, and the stage manager shrugged. "It's out of my hands. The judges will decide if you can continue." Stella's heart sank, the weight of the accusation a chain around her voice. The Royal Albert Hall's grandeur felt oppressive, its golden arches mocking her. She thought of her mom, singing through pain, but the fear was a tidal wave, threatening to pull her under. What if the judges disqualified her? What if the world believed the lies? The cameras, ever present, zoomed in, ready to capture her downfall. Jake pulled her aside, his hand gentle on her arm. "You're not alone in this, Stella," he said, his eyes steady. "We'll fight this together." He opened her notebook, pointing to the dated drafts of Light in the Dark. "This is your proof. You created this." Lila nodded, her phone already out, typing a response to the X post. Stella Musk's song is 100% original. Haters spreading lies won't stop her. #Sing your truth. Amara chimed in, her voice firm. "I'm singing with you today, Stella. Let's show them what real artists do." Their support was a lifeline, a spark in the dark. Stella took a shaky breath, clutching her locket, her mom's photo a silent strength. She thought of the talent show, the sabotaged mic, the switched song in LA, each time, she'd found a way through. Maybe she could again. The rehearsal space buzzed with tension, but Amara's warm smile and Jake's steady chords grounded her. They practiced their duet, a soulful cover of Ain't No Mountain High Enough, their voices blending in a harmony that felt like defiance. The judges watched, their expressions unreadable, but the music was a shield, protecting Stella's heart. As they finished, a surprise came from an unexpected source. A Star Voice producer, a woman with sharp eyes and a clipboard, approached. "Stella, we've reviewed your submission records," she said. "Your song's drafts check out. We're dismissing the plagiarism claims for now, but the media's still running with it. Be prepared." Relief flooded Stella, her knees weak. Lila hooped, hugging her tightly. "Told you, Stell. The truth wins." Jake grinned, his hand brushing hers, a quiet spark. The judges nodded, one offering a rare smile, and Stella felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she could keep going, prove her song was hers, and silence the doubters. But the storm wasn't over. That evening, as Stella, Lila, Jake, and Amara left the hall, the London rain soaking their jackets, Stella's phone buzzed with a new X post. This one was devastating, from an account linked to Madison's clique. Stella Musk bribed judges to stay in Star Voice. Leaked email proves it. #MuskFlop. Attached was a forged email, claiming Elon had paid off the judges to dismiss the plagiarism claims. The post was at 300,000 likes, trending globally, with comments like, "She's a fake," and "Elon's money ruins everything." The lie was a knife, sharper than any before, turning her victory into a conspiracy. Stella's vision blurred with tears, the rain mixing with her sobs. Lila's face reddened, her fingers typing furiously. "This is war," she spat. "I'm digging into this account. Madison's done." Jake clenched his fists, his guitar case dripping in the rain. "This isn't right, Stella. We'll find proof it's fake." Amara put a hand on her shoulder, her voice soft. "You're stronger than their lies. Keep singing." But the doubt was a poison, seeping deeper. Was her talent enough, or was her last name a curse? The world saw her as a cheater, a fraud, and the weight was crushing. Then, a notification pinged, cutting through the chaos. It was an X post from Elon Musk himself. "My daughter Stella is the real deal. Her talent is hers, not mine. Proud of you, kiddo. #Sing your truth." The post was at 500,000 likes, a tidal wave of support that stunned her. Comments flooded in, "Elon's got her back. Stella's voice is legit. Keep going." For the first time, her dad's voice reached her, not distracted or distant, but clear and proud. Tears fell harder, but they were different now, relief, gratitude, a spark of strength. The London skyline shimmered through the rain, the Royal Albert Hall a beacon behind them. Stella clutched her locket, her mom's photo a light in the dark. The bribery lie was a new battle, but Elon's words, Lila's fire, Jake's steadiness, and Amara's kindness were her army. The global competition was a crucible, testing her in ways she hadn't imagined, but she'd faced worse and survived. Her voice was her truth, and she'd sing it, no matter the cost. The Royal Albert Hall glowed under a constellation of chandeliers, its crimson and gold interior a cathedral of sound on May 20, 2025. Stella Musk stood backstage at the Global Star Voice competition's final round, her black dress replaced with a flowing ivory gown, its fabric soft against her skin, a symbol of the courage she'd fought to claim. Her dark hair was loose, cascading over her shoulders, her glasses steady, reflecting the stage lights. Her locket, etched with a silver star, pressed against her chest, a tether to her mom, Sarah, whose memory had carried her through sabotage, lies, and scrutiny. Tonight, she'd perform her original ballad, Light in the Dark, a tribute to Sarah, with the world watching and a global title at stake. The air backstage was electric, thick with the scent of roses from bouquets and the nervous hum of finalists. Lila Carter hovered nearby, her chestnut curls tamed in a bun, her hazel eyes fierce with pride. "You're gonna make them cry, Stell," she said, adjusting Stella's mic pack. Jake Thompson stood by a prop crate, his guitar tuned, his brown hair falling into his eyes. He'd arranged a new acoustic version of her song, his chords a perfect match for her voice. "This is your moment," he said, his lopsided grin a quiet anchor. Amara, the South African contestant who'd become a friend, gave a thumbs up from across the room, her dreadlocks swaying. "Sing for your mom," she said, her voice warm. But Stella's heart pounded with fear. The ex-post accusing her of bribing judges, fueled by Madison Hayes' clique, had skyrocketed to 400,000 likes, with comments like, "Stella's a fake," and #MuskFlop buys her way through. Her dad's public defense, "My daughter Stella is the real deal." #SingYourTruth, had countered with 700,000 likes, but the hate still stung, a poison seeping into her confidence. The judges, a British producer, a pop icon, and an opera legend, watched with sharp eyes, the plagiarism and bribery rumors hanging unspoken in the air. Stella clutched her lyric notebook, its pages proof of her song's truth, but the world's judgment loomed like a storm. The first shock came minutes before her performance. A stagehand rushed over, his face pale. "Stella, there's a protest outside. Fans are chanting about the bribery claims, demanding you withdraw." Stella's breath caught, her vision blurring. She peeked through a backstage monitor, seeing a crowd waving signs, "No cheats in Star Voice," and #MuskFlop out. The cameras zoomed in, broadcasting the chaos to millions. Lila's eyes blazed. "This is Madison's doing," she hissed. "She's orchestrating this from Palo Alto." Jake clenched his jaw, his guitar strapped tight. "They can't stop you, Stella. You're here because you're real." Panic surged, a tidal wave threatening to drown her. The protest was a public crucifixion, amplifying the lies that had haunted her journey. The Royal Albert Hall's grandeur felt like a trap, its 5,000 seats filled with an audience ready to judge. She thought of her mom, singing through pain, but the fear was overwhelming. What if she froze? What if the world believed the lies? Her hands trembled, her notebook slipping, her voice a whisper, "I can't do this." Amara stepped forward, her hand gentle on Stella's arm. "You're not a cheat, Stella. You're a fighter. Sing for the ones who believe in you." Lila grabbed her shoulders, her voice fierce. "You've faced worse, Madison's mic sabotage, the song switch, the plagiarism lies. You're stronger than this." Jake strummed a soft chord, the opening of Light in the Dark, his eyes steady. "This is for your mom, Stella. Let her shine through you." Their words were a lifeline, pulling her from the edge. Stella clutched her locket, picturing Sarah's smile under a summer sky. Her dad's ex-post echoed in her mind, his pride a spark. Maybe she could do this. The stage manager called her name, the crowd's murmur rising. Stella stepped onto the stage, Jake at her side, his guitar a steady presence. The hall was a sea of faces, British, American, global. Some cheering, others skeptical, phones glowing with X posts. The judges sat at their polished table, their eyes unreadable. The protests outside faded as Jake's chords began, soft and haunting, and Stella sang, "In the shadows, I was lost, searching for a spark." Her voice was raw, trembling at first, but it grew stronger, a tribute to her mom's love, her own fight. The song was her heart laid bare, Sarah's death, the ex-hate, the courage she'd found in Palo Alto, LA, and now London. "I'll find the light in the dark, I'll sing my way through." Her voice soared, pure and powerful, weaving with Jake's guitar in a harmony that silenced the hall. The audience leaned in, some wiping tears, the judges penned still. Stella closed her eyes, her locket warm, her mom's presence tangible in every note. When the final chord faded, the hall erupted, a standing ovation that shook the rafters, louder than the protests outside. The pop icon judge stood, tears streaming, her voice booming, "Stella, that was a gift to the world." The opera legend nodded, adding, "You've redefined authenticity." Stella stumbled off stage, her legs weak, tears falling. Lila rushed her, hugging her tightly. "You made them feel your mom, Stell." Amara joined, her smile wide. "That was magic." Jake's hand brushed hers, his grin soft. "You did it," he said, his voice warm. The crowd's cheers echoed, phones lighting up with X posts, "Stella Musk just won my heart." #SingYourTruth was trending globally, 1 million likes in minutes. The MC's voice boomed, "The global star voice champion for 2025 is Stella Musk." The hall exploded, confetti falling, the judges standing to applaud. Stella's breath caught, her vision blurring as she stepped forward, Jake at her side, to accept the crystal trophy. Its weight was heavy, a symbol of her journey from Palo Alto's auditorium to this global stage. The cameras zoomed in, capturing her tears, her smile, the locket glinting under the lights. The protests outside were drowned out, the world seeing her truth. But the moment held a final revelation. As Stella held the trophy, the British producer approached, his voice low. "We traced the plagiarism and bribery posts," he said. "They came from a Palo Alto IP, linked to a student named Madison Hayes. We're releasing a statement clearing your name." Stella's heart stopped, relief flooding her. Madison's lies were exposed, her sabotage undone. X lit up with the news, "Stella Musk vindicated." #SingYourTruth soared past 2 million likes, with comments like, "Madison's the real flop," and "Stella's a queen." Backstage, Stella sank onto a crate, the trophy in her lap, Lila, Jake, and Amara surrounding her. "You did it, Stell," Lila said, her voice thick with pride. "You showed the world." Jake grinned, his hand resting near hers. "Your mom's proud, I bet." Amara nodded, her eyes shining. "You're unstoppable." Stella clutched her locket, her mom's photo a light in the dark. She'd faced sabotage, lies, and a global stage, and she'd won, not just the competition, but her own truth. The London skyline glittered through the hall's windows, a promise of new beginnings. Stella thought of her dad, his ex post a rare bridge between them. She'd sung for Sarah, for herself, and the world had listened. The road ahead was uncertain, fame, music, the weight of her name, but she felt ready, her voice a power she'd claimed. Her mom's melody lived in her, and with her friends by her side, she'd keep singing, no matter what came next. The Palo Alto evening was warm, the Silicon Valley sky painted with streaks of pink and gold as the sun dipped below the horizon. On June 1, 2025, Stella Musk sat on the front steps of her family's glass and steel mansion, her dark hair loose, her glasses catching the fading light. Her navy sweater, a familiar comfort, hugged her frame, and her locket, etched with a silver star, rested against her chest, a constant reminder of her mom, Sarah. The crystal trophy from the Global Star Voice competition, won in London 10 days ago, sat beside her, its facets glinting like a captured star. The weight of her journey, from the sabotage talent show to the Royal Albert Hall's roaring ovation, settled in her bones, a mix of triumph and quiet awe. Inside, the mansion hummed with the faint buzz of servers and the distant clatter of her dad, Elon, working in his study. Stella's phone, tucked in her pocket, was silent for once, the X-storm of the past months finally calming. The plagiarism and bribery lies, orchestrated by Madison Hayes, had been exposed, the truth spreading faster than the hate, Stella Musk vindicated. Hashtag Sing Your Truth had hit 3 million likes, drowning out the hashtag MuskFlop hashtag. Her victory in London, a tear-soaked performance of Light in the Dark that moved the world, had cemented her as a star, not just Elon's daughter, but Stella, a voice of her own. Lila Carter bounded up the driveway, her chestnut curls bouncing, her hazel eyes sparkling with her usual fire. "Yo, superstar, you hiding out here?" she teased, plopping down beside Stella, a milkshake from In-N-Out in hand. "The whole town's talking about you. Palo Alto High's planning a freaking assembly in your honor." Stella laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in months. "That's too much," she said, taking the milkshake Lila offered. "I just want to breathe for a minute." Jake Thompson followed, his guitar case slung over his shoulder, his brown hair falling into his eyes. He'd returned from London with them, his quiet strength a constant through the competition's chaos. "You earned a break," he said, sitting on the steps, his lopsided grin warming her. "But you know the world's not letting you stay quiet for long." He nodded at her phone, where X notifications still trickled in. "Stella Musk's song is my anthem. When's the album dropping? Hashtag Sing Your Truth." The weight of her new reality pressed down. The global victory had opened doors, record labels calling, producers emailing, fans begging for more. But fame was a double-edged sword, its spotlight both exhilarating and terrifying. She'd faced Madison's sabotage, X's hate, and her own doubts, but the fear lingered. Could she live up to the world's expectations? Could she stay true to herself? The crystal trophy gleamed, a symbol of her strength, but also a reminder of the pressure to keep shining. "What if I'm not ready for this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Lila grabbed her hand, her grip fierce. "You're ready, Stell. You faced a global stage and made it yours. This is just the next step." Jake nodded, his eyes steady. "You're not just a singer, Stella. You're a storyteller. That's what people love." Their words were a balm, soothing the raw edges of her fear. She thought of Amara, her London ally, who'd texted yesterday, "Keep singing, Stella. The world needs your light." The support, from friends and strangers, was a constellation guiding her forward. A surprising moment came when Madison Hayes herself appeared at the end of the driveway, her blonde ponytail limp, her usual smirk gone. Stella tensed, memories of sabotage and lies flooding back, the viral X posts, the doctored video, the bribery claims. Madison's actions had nearly broken her, but now, she looked small, her eyes downcast. "Stella," she said, her voice low, I'm sorry. I was jealous. You were always so real, and I hated that I wasn't. I didn't mean for it to go that far." Stella's heart raced, anger warring with something softer. She thought of her mom, who taught her that love was stronger than hate, and of the London stage, where she'd turned pain into power. "Why, Madison?" she asked, her voice steady but sharp. "Why try to destroy me?" Madison's eyes filled with tears. "I thought tearing you down would make me feel bigger. It didn't." She hesitated, then added, "You deserve to win. I won't bother you again." Stella took a deep breath, her locket warm against her skin. Forgiveness wasn't easy, but holding on to anger felt heavier. "I forgive you," she said softly, the words a release. "But you need to forgive yourself, too." Madison nodded, tears falling, and walked away, her figure fading into the twilight. Lila whistled. "You're a bigger person than me, Stell." Jake smiled, his hand brushing hers. "That's why you're you." The act of forgiveness lifted a weight Stella hadn't realized she carried. It was a lesson her mom had lived: love, even in pain, was the way forward. She felt Sarah's presence in the evening breeze, her melody a quiet strength. The world had seen her heart, and now, she was learning to see it too. The front door opened, and Elon Musk stepped out, his blue eyes softer than Stella had seen in years. He wore a simple black tee, his usual whirlwind of energy replaced by a rare stillness. "Stella," he said, sitting beside her, "I watched your London performance. You were incredible." His voice cracked, a vulnerability she hadn't expected. "I'm sorry I wasn't there more. Your mom would be so proud." Stella's throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes. She'd craved this, her dad seeing her, not as a Musk, but as Stella. "I missed you," she admitted, her voice small. "I thought you didn't care." Elon's face fell, his hand resting on hers. "I care, kiddo. I just get lost in my head. But you're my star, always have been." He pulled her into a hug, his arms awkward but warm, a bridge rebuilt after years of distance. Lila and Jake exchanged a glance, slipping away to give them space. Stella leaned into her dad, the scent of his cologne familiar, a memory of model rockets and backyard laughs. "I sang for Mom," she said, her voice muffled. "But I think I sang for me, too." Elon nodded, his eyes glistening. "You did. And you'll keep singing. I'll be there, I promise." The words were a vow, a new beginning for them both. As the sky darkened, Silicon Valley's neon skyline flickered to life, a world of ambition and dreams. Stella held the crystal trophy, its weight a reminder of her journey. She'd faced mockery, sabotage, and lies, each a fire that forged her stronger. The ex-posts, the global stage, the world's eyes, they'd tested her, but she'd found her voice, her truth. Her mom's lesson echoed: life is full of surprises, but love will always lead the way. Love for Sarah, for her friends, for herself, it had carried her through. Stella stood, the trophy in one hand, her locket in the other. Lila and Jake returned, their grins bright. "Ready for what's next, superstar?" Lila asked, linking arms with her. Jake's eyes met hers, a spark of something new. "Whatever it is, we're with you," he said. Stella smiled, her heart full. She'd learned to forgive, to reconnect, to believe in her own light. The future, music, fame, challenges, was uncertain, but she was no longer afraid. Her voice was her power, and she'd sing it, for her mom, for the world, for herself. The Palo Alto night was alive with the hum of summer, cicadas singing in the warm June air of 2026. Stella Musk stood on the rooftop terrace of her family's glass and steel mansion, the Silicon Valley skyline glittering below, a constellation of neon and ambition. At 18, she wore a simple white sundress, her dark hair cascading over her shoulders, her glasses catching the glow of fairy lights strung across the terrace. Her locket, etched with a silver star, rested against her chest, a constant tether to her mom, Sarah, whose memory had fueled her journey from a mocked high schooler to a global music sensation. The crystal trophy from the Star Voice competition, won in London a year ago, sat on a table nearby, its facets reflecting the stars above. Stella's life had transformed since that tear-soaked night at the Royal Albert Hall, where her original ballad, Light in the Dark, had clinched the global title and silenced the lies of Madison Hayes. The X-storm, plagiarism accusations, bribery claims, #MuskFlop hashtags, had faded, replaced by a tidal wave of support. Stella Musk's voice is a gift. #Sing Your Truth had become a mantra, with her song now a chart-topping single. Record labels had clamored for her, and she'd signed with a small indie studio, one that let her write from the heart. Her debut album, Starlight, was set to release next month, a collection of songs about grief, courage, and finding her own light. Tonight, the terrace was a haven, a rare pause before her first world tour. Lila Carter lounged on a cushioned bench, her chestnut curls loose, her hazel eyes scanning X on her phone. "Stell, you're trending again," she said, grinning. "Fans are losing it over your tour dates. Tokyo's sold out already." Jake Thompson sat cross-legged nearby, his guitar in his lap, strumming a soft melody. His brown hair still fell into his eyes, but his lopsided grin was brighter now, a constant in Stella's life. "They're not wrong," he said, his voice warm. "You're gonna light up those stages." Stella smiled, leaning against the railing, the city's pulse below a reminder of how far she'd come. A year ago, she'd been a quiet girl hiding behind her glasses, mocked for daring to sing at Palo Alto High's talent show. Madison's sabotage. Viral X posts, a sabotaged mic, lies that followed her to Los Angeles and London, had nearly broken her. But Lila's fire, Jake's steadiness, Amara's kindness, and her dad's unexpected support had carried her through. She'd faced the world's judgment and found her voice, not as Elon Musk's daughter, but as Stella. Yet the weight of her new life pressed down, a bittersweet shadow. Fame was a whirlwind, interviews, studio sessions, fans chanting her name, but it came with isolation. She missed the simplicity of her bedroom, her mom's vinyl records, late-night milkshakes with Lila. The X comments, though mostly kind now, still held barbs. "She's just riding her dad's fame. One-hit wonder." The pressure to prove herself, to keep her music raw and true, was a constant hum in her mind. "What if I lose myself in this?" she said softly, her voice barely carrying over the cicadas. "What if I forget why I started?" Lila set her phone down, her expression softening. "You won't, Stell. You're the girl who sang through sabotage and hate. You've got a heart like a freaking galaxy." Jake's fingers paused on the guitar, his eyes meeting hers. "Your music's you, Stella. It's your mom, your story. No one can take that." Their words were a lifeline, grounding her in the truth she'd fought for. She thought of Amara, now a rising star in South Africa, who'd emailed last week, "Your light's still burning, Stella. Keep it bright." The support, from friends and fans, was a reminder of the love that had carried her. The terrace door opened, and Elon Musk stepped out, his black tee casual, his blue eyes softer than they'd been in years. Their relationship had shifted since London, his ex-post defending her a turning point. He'd started showing up, attending her studio sessions, calling to check in, even joking about her tour bus needing a Tesla engine. "Stella," he said, sitting beside her, "I was just on X. Your fans are planning a flash mob for your LA show." He chuckled, a rare lightness in his voice. "You're changing the world, kiddo." Stella's throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes. "I just want to make Mom proud," she said, her voice small. Elon's hand rested on hers, warm and steady. "You have. She's in every note you sing." He pulled out his phone, showing a video from her London performance, her voice soaring through "Light in the Dark." "I watch this when I'm stuck in meetings," he admitted. "It reminds me what matters." The confession was a bridge, mending years of distance. Stella leaned into him, the scent of his cologne a memory of simpler days. A new figure joined them, Madison Hayes, invited at Stella's request. Her blonde ponytail was gone, her hair cropped short, her eyes hesitant but clear. After her apology a year ago, Madison had stayed true to her word, leaving Stella alone and even posting a public retraction on X. "I was wrong about Stella Musk. She's the real deal. #sing your truth." Tonight, she'd asked to see Stella, a final step in her redemption. "Stella," Madison said, her voice low, "I'm heading to college next week. I just wanted to say thank you for forgiving me. It changed me." Stella nodded, her heart full. "You changed yourself, Madison. Keep going." The words were a gift, a closure to their past. Madison smiled, tears in her eyes, and slipped away, leaving Stella with a sense of peace. Forgiveness, she'd learned, was as much for herself as for others, a lesson her mom had lived. As the night deepened, Stella stood, picking up the crystal trophy, its weight a reminder of her journey. She walked to the edge of the terrace, the skyline a canvas of possibility. Her album, her tour, her future, they were daunting, but she wasn't the girl who'd hidden behind her glasses anymore. She'd faced mockery, sabotage, and lies, each a fire that forged her stronger. Her mom's melody lived in her, a light in the dark, and her friends, her dad, her fans, they were her constellation, guiding her forward. She turned to Lila and Jake, their faces glowing under the fairy lights. "I'm scared," she admitted, her voice steady despite the truth. "But I'm ready." Lila grinned, linking arms with her. "You're a freaking supernova, Stell. The world's not ready for you." Jake strummed a chord, the opening of Light in the Dark, his eyes soft. "We're with you, always." Elon stood, his smile proud. "Go shine, kiddo. I'll be in the front row." Stella took a deep breath, the lesson of her journey clear: life is full of surprises, but love will always lead the way. Love for her mom, who'd taught her to sing, for her friends, who'd fought for her, for her dad, who'd found his way back, and for herself, a girl who'd learned to claim her voice. The ex-posts, the stages, the world's eyes, they were part of her story, but not its heart. Her music was her truth, a bridge to Sarah, to the world, to the future. She stepped to the center of the terrace, Jake's guitar playing softly, and sang a few lines of Light in the Dark. "I'll find the light in the dark, I'll sing my way through." Her voice was pure, powerful, a promise to keep going. The skyline shimmered, Silicon Valley a reminder of where she'd begun, and the stars above a map of where she'd go. Her tour would take her to Tokyo, Paris, New York, but here, with her family, chosen in blood, she was home. The cicadas sang on, the night wrapping her in warmth. Stella held her locket, her mom's photo a light that would never fade. She'd faced the world and won, not just a trophy, but herself. Whatever came next, fame, challenges, new songs, she'd meet it with her voice, her heart, her truth. And that was enough. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?